They say grief comes in waves. For me it hit like a freight train. My husband Tom died on a Wednesday. It was a clear, ordinary morning. He made me coffee, black for him, 2 sugars and cream for me, kissed my forehead and walked out to prune the vines like he always did. 10 minutes later I heard the clatter, a loud final sound that didn't fit the quiet of the vineyard. I ran outside in my slippers and found him face down, hands still clutching the clippers. It was a heart attack. Massive, sudden, and cruel. Tom was gone before I could even say goodbye. We'd been married for 36 years. 36. More than half my life and nearly all of my adult identity. Tom and I had started with nothing. A rented apartment in Reno, 2 waitressing jobs between us, and a busted Pontiac that always veered left. Over the years he built his construction company from the ground up, flipping houses until he could build them outright, then building them until he could buy land and develop neighborhoods. He worked hard. I mean brutally hard. Up at 5, home after dark, dusty boots and cracked hands. But he always said, "It's not for me. It's for us." Eventually, us meant more than just him and me. Our son Grant came along in year 10. Smart, curious, sharp little eyes that always seemed to be calculating something. Tom adored him. Maybe too much. Maybe I did too. But somewhere along the line Grant changed. The warmth turned calculating. The affection became performance. As he got older, he started to resemble Tom less and less, and not in appearance. In values. In heart. Still, Tom believed in him. Believed so strongly that he gave Grant a job at the firm straight out of college. "He's family," he'd say when the board protested. "He's young. He'll learn." I wanted to believe that too. Tom was cremated, per his wishes. A quiet service. No fanfare. He always hated attention. I sat in the front row, clutching a folded handkerchief and pretending to feel less hollow than I was. Grant and his wife Hannah arrived late. She wore white for God's sake. And he barely looked at me. After the ceremony we stood together in the vineyard, just the 2 of us. Grant lit a cigarette with one hand, phone in the other. No words like "I miss him" or "How are you, Mom?" Just, "So what's going to happen with the estate?" I blinked. "I haven't even opened the will." He exhaled smoke. "You should. Might be a lot to sort through." There it was. Not even a pretense of mourning. The will was read 3 days later by Tom's longtime attorney, Paul Anders. He invited me to the office alone. I sat in the leather chair across from his desk, a manila envelope resting between us. He looked nervous, like a priest about to deliver bad news to a sinner. "This might come as a shock," he began, sliding the envelope toward me. It contained a letter, handwritten, in Tom's neat, deliberate script. "My dearest Evelyn, if you're reading this, I'm gone. And I hate that. But I want to say something while I still can, something I couldn't in life because you talked me out of it. You're kind like that. Too kind. Everything I have, the house on Lake Vermilion, the vineyard, the cash assets, the properties, the shares in the firm, it's all yours. Every last penny. I've left Grant nothing. You'll find the official documents in Paul's safe. You're the sole beneficiary. Before you panic, let me explain. I love our son, but I also see him clearly now. I've watched him drain resources, manipulate people, cut corners in ways I never taught him. I hoped he'd outgrow it. He didn't. I gave him a job he didn't earn, and instead of working for the future, he expected me to hand it to him. You built this life with me. You stood by me when we were broke, sick, exhausted. I wouldn't have made it without you. This is your legacy as much as mine. Now protect it, even if it means protecting it from him. All my love, Tom." I stared at that letter until the words blurred. Paul waited a long moment, then cleared his throat. "This is legally sound. Everything passes to you, Evelyn. If Grant contests it, he'll lose." I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just nodded and took the envelope back. But I didn't tell Grant. Not yet. I needed time to think. Time to feel. Time to stop shaking. That decision not telling him was the first domino. Because exactly 1 week after the funeral, I came home to find the locks changed. I stood on the front porch of my own home, grocery bags in my hands, staring at a brass deadbolt that didn't recognize me. It was a small thing, the kind of thing you'd only notice when the key clicks wrong. When your hand stutters. When the door doesn't open after 36 years of faithful service. I tried again. Same key. Same result. The bags dropped to the stone steps with a dull thud. Eggs cracked. A bottle of olive oil rolled into the garden. My heart, already brittle from grief, began to splinter. I knocked. No answer. I rang the bell. Still nothing. I pulled out my phone and called Grant. Straight to voicemail. I tried Hannah. Same result. That was when I saw the envelope taped to the inside of the glass panel on the front door. My name scribbled in Grant's lazy handwriting. Mom, we've had a family meeting. You're not well. You're not thinking clearly. We've contacted a lawyer, and based on your recent behavior and emotional state, we're pursuing guardianship and control of Dad's estate. You can stay at the guest house on the east side of the vineyard while this gets sorted. You're not being evicted, you're being cared for. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. Grant and Hannah. I read it 3 times. I read it again. And again. And still it didn't make sense. Not well. Emotional state? Guardianship. As if I were a child. Or worse, demented. My first reaction was confusion. Then disbelief. And then I won't lie to you, rage. Pure hot cleansing rage. I laughed. Out loud. There on the porch. Not the kind of laugh that means something's funny. The kind of laugh that feels like the only alternative to screaming. Then I did the one thing Tom would have hated. I drove straight to the vineyard's equipment shed, pried open the breaker box, and shut off every circuit that powered the main house. They were out front in minutes, yelling. Hannah wore her bathrobe and a pair of sunglasses far too big for her narrow face, like a second-rate soap star caught in a scandal. Grant had the gall to look annoyed. Mom, what the hell are you doing? He shouted. You could have fried the server room. I thought I was unwell. I called back calmly. Not allowed in the house. Just playing it safe. We're doing this for your own good. Hannah piped in, arms crossed. It's complicated. Not really, I said. You're squatting in a house you don't own, trying to take money you didn't earn. That's when Grant stepped forward, his voice low, threatening. Legally, we have grounds. You haven't been stable since Dad died. I met his eyes, those same sharp, calculating eyes I'd once thought held promise, and smiled. I suppose now's a good time to show you something, I said. I didn't bring the letter. That was too sentimental. Too easy to dismiss. Instead, I went to Paul's office and picked up the real bombshell, the notarized copy of Tom's estate plan. Every page initialed. Every clause airtight. When I returned, I walked right into the house. I still had a spare key in my purse from the renovation days, one they'd clearly forgotten about, and found them at the kitchen table arguing over spreadsheets. Grant's laptop was open. Hannah was waving a pen. There was a bottle of wine between them. Neither of them noticed me until I placed the document folder down on the wood. What is that? Hannah asked, eyeing the seal. The part of your little plan you didn't think through, I replied. Grant scoffed. Whatever that is, we'll have our attorneys review. You won't need to, I interrupted, because this is already filed with probate court. It's final. Your father left everything to me. Not you. Not both of us. Me. Sole beneficiary. He opened the folder and began reading. I watched the blood drain from his face. Mom, this can't be. It is. I sat down across from them. And before you get any ideas, I've already frozen access to all business accounts pending a full audit. You'll be removed from the firm by Monday. Hannah stared at me like I was an alien. You can't do that. I can. And I did. It was like watching two burglars realize the alarm they disabled wasn't the only one installed. Grant threatened to sue. He ranted about family legacy and verbal promises and intent. I just poured myself a glass of wine, the good vintage Tom's favorite, and toasted the man who had seen all of this coming. But it wasn't over. Not yet. Because the worst betrayal hadn't happened before the letter came after. The vineyard felt different after that day. Not the land. It still rolled out in soft green rows, kissed with sun and thick with the scent of ripening fruit. But the air had changed. It was like the soil knew what had happened, like it carried the echo of betrayal, tucked beneath its roots. Grant moved out of the main house 2 days later. Not willingly. I gave him a firm deadline, and when it passed, I had a locksmith and 2 vineyard hands escort him and Hannah off the property. They screamed, threatened, filmed me on their phones like I was some sort of lunatic. I didn't flinch. I'd spent too many years being quiet. This time I wasn't backing down. But I wasn't ready for what came next. It started with a phone call from the bank. Mrs. Marin, the manager said, we just wanted to confirm that you authorized a transfer of $475,000 from the estate's bridge loan account? I nearly dropped the phone. No, I said, my voice sharp. I absolutely did not authorize any transfer. She was quiet. Then, I think you should come in. It didn't take long to unravel. Grant had used his lingering credentials at the firm, credentials I hadn't yet revoked, a mistake I still kicked myself for, to approve a wire transfer from a dormant account Tom had set up years ago to float vineyard expenses during dry seasons. The account hadn't been touched in 5 years, but it was still active. Grant transferred nearly $500,000 to a shell LLC he controlled. Paul was furious. I was devastated. My own son. Robbing me. Not out of desperation but entitlement. A belief that what he wanted should simply be his. We called in forensic accountants. We called the sheriff. Paul wanted to press charges immediately. But I hesitated. Not because he didn't deserve it. He did. God, he did. But because the grief hadn't fully landed yet. And once it did, it drowned me. Grief looks different when you're alone. I sat in the lake house one night, just me and a bottle of wine in the stillness of early spring, and let myself feel it. The full weight of losing Tom. The weight of losing Grant too, in a way. Because that boy I raised, the one who used to bring me dandelions and draw me pictures of our someday mansion, he was gone. Replaced by someone I didn't recognize. That night, I opened an old box of letters. Tom used to leave me notes on napkins in books on receipts. I kept every one. One of them, folded between pages of an old gardening almanac, said, if they ever make you feel small, Ev, remember you built this. You held it all together. You're the strong one. I just lifted the heavy things. I cried until dawn. The next morning I called Paul. Press charges, I said. File everything. Let the chips fall. It was a horrible thing to do, and an absolutely necessary one. What followed was public, humiliating, and, if I'm honest, deeply cathartic. The audit revealed more. Grant had skimmed from the construction firm for years. Not huge sums, just little ones. Personal expenses disguised as travel reimbursements. Lunches that never happened. Gifts for Hannah labeled as client appreciation. He'd never built anything. He'd just taken. The trial moved quickly. Hannah left him the moment the word felony was mentioned. Of course she did. He called me once from jail before sentencing. You destroyed my life, he said. I stared at the receiver. No, I answered. You did. I just stopped pretending you hadn't. It's been 11 months. I wake early most days just after sunrise. I walk the rows Tom used to walk. I talk to the vines like he did. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I swear they answer me just in the way they grow or lean or hold their fruit a little longer. I hired a new vineyard manager. A woman strong and fair. Her name is Maya. She works hard, doesn't ask for shortcuts, and takes care of the land like it's her own. Sometimes she brings her daughter, a shy girl named Isabel who likes to sit on the back porch and sketch the lake. I've started making them lunch when they come. Feels healing. People ask me if I regret not telling Grant sooner. Things might have gone differently. If I should have tried harder to protect him from himself. But here's the truth, and it's sharp. Not every child grows up to be good. Love doesn't always save them. Sometimes it just gives them more leverage to hurt you. And sometimes doing the right thing looks like cruelty to everyone else. But it isn't. It's clarity. There's one last thing I didn't tell you. The real paper that changed everything wasn't Tom's will. It was the paper I wrote 3 months later, sitting at the long oak table in the main house, with the lake breeze in the window. My own will. It leaves the vineyard to a non-profit that teaches young women agriculture and business. It leaves the house to Maya and Isabel. The money goes to scholarships, shelters, and clinics. Not one penny goes to Grant. And you know what? For the first time in my life I feel free.